I'm a Democratic candidate for the House seat, and after all these other games going on right now, we have U of A fighting ASU and Senate race now. I feel like ours is sort of a calm, mellow campaign, and you're probably not that interested. So thank you for coming. I know there are a lot of other things you could be doing right now. Also, the other thing I want to mention is I wrote this great speech for you, but my toner ran out at home, so pardon me as I kind of wing it. Also, I want to just point out a couple of important people in the audience to me. My dad and my stepmom, Hassan and Beth, sitting over there. Who's my field director, and McCall Collins, who's sitting over here with her dad. Thank you both for coming. And by the way, McCall and Caitlin are both full-time students at the U of A, and I know part of the reason they're working on my campaign is because they're really frustrated at what they're seeing at our universities. In the paper yesterday, they mentioned that tuition was going to go up another $2,000 to $9,000 a year for in-state tuition. Out-of-state tuition, I think, is something like $25,000. So it's getting harder and harder to go to college now for some. So getting back to the plan here. I thought I'd tell you about three things, because when I come to these forums, there are three things that I want to know about the candidates. Is who are you, why are you running, and what differentiates you from the other candidates. So I'll try to touch on those points in the next few minutes we have together. Again, Tim Sultan, and I was born and raised here. This is my hometown, Tucson. The reason why I'm running is people need help now in Arizona. And I want to help those people who have been affected by the cuts in education and children's services. And I've been doing a lot of walking door to door and met a lot of people who have shared their stories with me. It's very compelling. And I feel like our state is in a state of crisis. And I have to get involved in. Just briefly, I am running for the 28th House seat. And again, it's nice that we don't have to run against a sitting incumbent because Dave Bradley is terminally moved, unfortunately. He's been representing us with great distinction, and we're sorry to see him go, but I am running for the open seat, and Dave's in the audience today. Now, in addition to the moral consequences of the education cuts and cuts to children's services, I think it's also going to have disastrous effects in our economy in the future. And so we're not doing anybody any favors by making these shortcuts in the short term. And that's why I want to be involved. I went to Amphi High School here in town, where my mom's a teacher. She was my senior English teacher. I think quite good. I'm also familiar with, and the thing about my mom being a teacher is I hear all the time about what it's like being in public schools. And my stepmother Beth is a retired elementary school teacher. And it's getting to be a very difficult time now to be a teacher. At a house party I had last week at Penelope Jack's house, one of my neighbors actually, who's very involved in education, came up to me and she said, my daughter is a teacher, and she just went down to Primavera, the home shelter, where they offered her some health care because she couldn't afford it somewhere else. And I've been volunteering at Primavera since they started 25 years ago when Nancy Bissell and Courtney Packard founded it and served on the board too, but I have never seen that kind of services being offered. Or a teacher in Arizona has to go to the homeless shelter to get health insurance, to get health care. So we really are, and the more you walk around and talk to people and hear these stories, you realize that they feel that no one is really sticking up for them. And it's because we don't have the majority in Phoenix. But one of the things we need to do is focus on our budget, and I'm familiar with budgets. My role has been in business for the last 18 years, and I currently work at a negotiation company where companies and government agencies come to us when they're really in trouble, when the negotiations have really stalled, and we try to bring sides together for a win-win solution, kind of like what we need in Phoenix right now. More about me. My first job out of Thunderbird was here in Tucson at Alpha Graphics headquarters, and they brought me in as this fresh 24-year-old with a newly minted MBA from this great school in Phoenix, Thunderbird, and I had my own budget, my own team, but I looked 15 years younger than I do now. So I didn't get a lot of respect, and that's okay. But after after 5 years on the job there, I was bringing in $15 million a year for these small businesses, these alpha-graphic stores. And people started to pay attention. And I feel that at Alpha-Graphics, they took a chance on me. And now I'm asking you to take a chance on me too. And I think that I can do a great job representing my hometown in the legislature. I hope you give me a chance to do that. I have never served in public office before. One or two of you might remember 6 years ago when I ran for Congress, when Jim Colby was still a member of Congress. And that turned out to be a great idea. But I haven't served in public office, but I've represented people before. I mentioned at DGT, when I was at Harvard, I was elected student body president, and we had a lot of crises occur. One between the Israeli and the Palestinian students, and another time when they were canceling a tuition financial aid program called the LRAP, the Loan Repayment Assistance Program. And this affected several hundred students, where the school would pay back your loan over the next 10 years as long as you worked in public service. Anyway, they canceled this program, and it didn't affect me. I didn't think it was that big of a deal until I started talking to the students who were affected by this. And one of the students, he was an older man, about 55, and he was studying at graduate school with his wife and children with him as well. And he was explaining to me that in his home country in India, he makes $140 a month. And there's no way he can pay back his $50,000 a year tuition that he now is saddled with after being promised that they would take care of it. So, I'm just looking at this guy, and his eyes well with tears, and I could just see how painful it is for him. And I realized that someone had to stick up for him, and that was my job. I was representing the student body. So I went to Larry Summers, our university president, and he shut me down right away. Pretty much explained that he was not going to spend one more cent on financial aid. And even though the school had a $40 billion endowment, that was untouchable. So I came back and organized a meeting. We had about 250 students there, and some of them volunteered to do a sit-in. They were affected personally, or they knew people who were affected, and they just did a sit-in in Harvard Yard, and pitched their tents, and slept all night there, and then slept a second night there. And on the third day, that's when the newspapers started showing up, and people paid attention. And we were on the news in Boston, and the front page of the Boston Globe had a picture of a student, unshaven, stirring his oatmeal with a little burner, and another student reading a book. And the front page said, "Harvard students protest financial aid cuts." And that morning, I remember getting a call, and went back into the president's office, and figured I'd probably be kicked out of school. This was pretty embarrassing. And he explained how embarrassing it was for him in the school. And he said, "Tim, I've decided what I'm going to do about this. I'm going to send your dean out to go raise that money and not come back until he's raised the money to fix the program." And so I said, "Great." Less than a week later, the dean was back. He raised the $3 or $4 million that we needed for this program. And it's still in effect today. And all of the students are the beneficiaries. And all it took was someone who was willing to shine a light on this and bring some attention to the issue. And when I walk door to door and I meet these people, like a couple who lives near me who have a 5-year-old boy who's autistic, and since the developmental disabilities have been cut by DES, by its legislature, their whole life is turned upside down. So many other stories that could go on, and that's the best part of this campaign, actually, for me, is meeting these people and understanding what they're going through, and trying to find a way that I can benefit them and help them. So, well, I didn't do any good speech, but we have great people on stage, and we're all good friends, and most of us are running clean, so you can give $5 to anybody, and we all want the same thing, to make a change in Phoenix, because the people are worth it, and that's all about it.